I'm that girl who is super excited and happy to be here today with you all. Welcome back. And today I want to discuss a question that was posed to me about movies and how it almost feels like their problem was they're working really hard to find their inner peace, balance, and neutral, and avoid fear because they know it's not good for our vibrations. And then they have a little entertainment moment where they suddenly find themselves watching a movie and it scares the bejesus out of them. And so they are afraid. They are upset that they want entertainment, and then they can feel tension and stress in the body, and they're sort of wondering, is this a dark agenda? What's going on here and why? So from my perspective, from hearing many people asking very similar questions about this in sessions and my own personal view, I would like to be able to discuss briefly what my perception of what's going on there is. So we know, let's just generalize this. We know that there is agendas everywhere for every industry. Let's label them just for the convenience of understanding what I'm trying to say. Let's talk about the dark agenda, and then let's talk about the good agenda, right? But really it's all the same. It's just our different perspective of what we're trying to learn from. So if we're watching something, this is a really common one. You're sitting there watching this drama play out, and suddenly there's a massive flood, and people are starting to panic because this flood is coming to get them. And people are sitting there and they're feeling their hearts are racing, they're starting to sweat, and they're starting to breathe, and they're starting to feel like they want to get their shoes on and just run for the hills. So if that is something that they're experiencing just from visually watching something, I would suggest that potentially they've had an experience where they have been in a flood. We know of really big examples of that for Lemuria and Atlantis. And so potentially if you've had a lifetime exit point or just an experience of those great collapses of those two continents, that could be a very triggering experience for you. So therefore, could you say this is a bad agenda to upset you and trigger you and freak you out about past lifetimes? Or could it be said that it is from the good agenda to be able to trigger you into remembrance to be able to overcome those feelings? It's different, isn't it? Both experiencing the same feelings and ranges, but what is the experience and the lessons that you overcome from it when you process, okay, I'm alive, nothing's coming to get me, this is just something I don't feel very comfortable with. And potentially if you watched it again down the track, would you still be triggered the same? Because when you watch an experience that's super uncomfortable and you have to process it and find your neutral and balance, could it be said that you've overcome that lesson and experience, you've relived it, you've experienced it with safety? Emotionally, you've experienced it with physical safety. So it's really interesting, since we know that no one is able to reincarnate here back on this earth. You could say that a lot of these triggers are happening to many people for them to experience the emotions of that situation and relive it and overcome it, and then get ready for the next wave of triggers. Oh, sorry for it's probably not a good pun, is it? So pardon me for that. So it's very interesting. It's also with our irrational fears. Many people have asked why. I quite like asking my clients, do you have any irrational fears you've ever had maybe in their lives? And they have to think about it. And there's always a few. It's really interesting what is connected to those irrational fears, because it's very rational when you hear what happened to them in other lifetimes and why they would have that reluctance and resistance. So it's all fascinating when you add in all the other lifetimes that we have forgotten that we may or may not have. So very helpful. And so also, what happens to your body when you're watching something? So you're in the comfort of your own home, you're surrounded with your own favorite knickknacks and pets and family members, and your favorite snack and your comfortable slippers and your sweats. You know the scene. That was most of us in lockdown, right? So anyway, so you're just minding your own business, binge watching a lot of TV and content, and then suddenly you're noticing that there is maybe a horror, or you can tell the music starting to get a little bit dramatic and stressful. And while we know we're very comfortable in the safety of our own homes, with our mindsets, we understand that this is happening to the actors. It's not personally happening to us. Or is it? Because your body doesn't know. Your body, chemistry wise, heart flutter wise, tension wise, panic wise, all of that stuff is actually responding to what you are seeing, which is perfect in terms of if you have to overcome something that's a block or trigger that you don't actually know. So a lot of these, let's talk about sweet tooth for a second. A lot of people instantly said, oh, though, this is dark agenda, don't watch this. This will brainwash you. This will mind control you. I can't remember all of the claims for that. And so when you know the history of Atlantis, you know that they were manipulating their populations through vaccines. And so over generations, this was starting to produce a lot of interesting hybrids from humanoids with animals. And this is an extraordinary experiments that they were doing on their communities. And so it was seen as unusual. And so they exterminated most of them for quite some time. So they lied to the families, saying the governments lied to the families, saying that they were going to take these children who were hybrids, who had different physical features, and be able to take them to a facility that is going to support and nurture them and save the family from the embarrassment of having different children. And so loyally, they trusted their governments and their advisors to do this to their own children. So they signed away the rights so then their children could have a safe and protected upbringing, because those who didn't fall in love with their own children, who were judging, really made it very challenging to live in society comfortably without being mocked and ridiculed for your different looking child. Interesting choices, because all those children did not go to a safe facility to be raised. They were instantly destroyed and put down as soon as they arrived on their island. And they got away with it for many, many, many years. Not nice. Not something that anyone should be proud of. So while we think we know our history and all the big, really horrible things that happened to humanity, there is some really grisly things that we are not consciously, well, we are consciously aware of it, but not in our daily lives, but subconsciously, I should say, we are very aware of the history of things. And so this whole range of new vaccines was supposed to trigger people into overcoming their fears of what had happened in those other lifetimes. Quite often, those who are very, very, very reluctant to take any form of vaccines were part of the experience of Atlantis, because they intuitively knew that these forms were not to be trusted and that there was big challenges there. So anyway, fascinating. We mustn't judge anyone's choices or irrational fears given what we may or may not know that has happened to those in other lifetimes. So anyway, what it turned out to be is that these hybrids in Atlantis actually started becoming very, very connected, and were starting to open portals, and these little children had these extraordinary superpowers basically, and it was a nightmare for those who were trying to control and manipulate them. So it became very interesting. And of course, things didn't change until one of the people that was in charge actually had their own child with these gifts and suddenly saw them as being gifts and not something to destroy and control and manipulate. So a lot is said there. So that Netflix series of Sweet Tooth is extraordinary. highly recommend people watching it because the lessons there and the narrative and the story is very profound. So consider that. Consider that literally, very loosely, was a great representation of how Atlantis actually was. So it is to trigger us, remind us, overcome certain things. We may have been impacted by them. We may have lost children by them. We may have been the children. We also may have been the people that were promoting and endorsing these vaccines in Atlantis. So all very interesting, and we can't blame anyone. There is purpose for those experiences, and those lessons should have been learned. And as we know, because they didn't learn them then, there was no other options for the collectives but to remove that society as a whole, because they were just being too destructive, playing with too much things that they shouldn't have been doing, and really been a menace for the evolution of the humanoid body, which is truly what they are wanting and needing here at this time. So there's a lot there. So sorry, I got off a little tangent, but if you've been called to watch something and you're being triggered and you're feeling uncomfortable, I understand turning it off because that would keep you feeling safe. But potentially you're turning yourself off from an opportunity to be triggered, to be able to overcome that, heal from it, and grow. And so while we don't like to be triggered, we love growth. So unfortunately, one must follow the other. So I highly recommend just thinking about the movies you've watched and how you had these physical reactions. And if you ever did watch it again and see, was there growth there, or is it the same terror that you feel or uncomfort? So that would be really interesting for you to just think about and ponder. Because if there is something that is still triggering you and you're very fearful and you just cannot process or even would consider watching a movie about certain things, there's a big nest of inner work there for you to unpack. And the whole perception that it's all just dark and it's going to keep you in fear and all this sort of stuff, it's our choices to keep in fear. No one can make us be in fear. We get to choose that range of emotions and then process and move on. It's advisable for us to be so in tune with our bodies and our minds that we instantly are recognizing our own emotions. Oh, I've triggered myself into fear. Ugh, fantastic. Now, how do I get my steps out of it? What do I do to give myself the joy and the recognition that it's okay to feel fear? There is no smacking of bottoms, no cross against your life contract. We're allowed to feel all of the emotions. So do not add judgment or shame onto yourself for feeling those emotions. It is to remind us the situation and scenario to be able to re-experience getting back out of it. It's beautiful. It's great. We should be so appreciative and grateful each time we get a trigger, because each time we master it and overcome it, it's faster and faster and faster. And then don't we just love our achievements of the things that we have overcome so quickly? And when we look back at all of the things we've overcome, doesn't that just give you a boost to realize that you have been able to achieve so much? Well, you prefer to have easy, simple lives. I don't think that's in anyone's contract this lifetime. So better luck for next life contract planning. Although I have to say, all of the life contracts that I've heard about people experiencing the old Earth, the new Earth, gosh, the old Earth, no. The new Earth experiences are just fantastic. So completely everything that we've ever wished for here. And more, beyond more. It's not just a better version of life here. It is the best version of life here. So Everyone is very looking forward to that shift to New Earth, and that is an incredible, exciting time for others to be able to be relieved from these experiences, to then learn and overcome them from that higher perspective in the fifth dimension. So it is extraordinary times. I know people who have had sessions who have experienced it cannot wait to get there. And, you know, it's all in due course, because we're waiting for all these other people to have these experiences. And yes, we have to say they're not such fun experiences, but they're very important for those experiences to be had, so they can overcome those emotions which are attached to the experiences, to have those lessons to move forward. So all we can do is just sort of hold our breath and hope that they overcome it, and that they feel so loved and so supported that whatever comes their way, they will keep expanding and having acceptance, and just feel like they are not alone. And this is one of the biggest problems that people are facing, is that they have this assumption that they're alone. And truly, when you love yourself and honor yourself and respect yourself, you actually don't mind if you are physically alone, because you have full acceptance and love of self. You're great. You're totally great. Why would you need anyone else? So get to that point and remember who you are and how good you are. Feel comfortable in your own skin, feel comfortable being here with your choice that you have decided to be here in this time, because you have, no one's forced you. You all volunteered, you all signed up for here. So make the most of it. So if you are just feeling like you're alone, reintroduce yourself to yourselves, and to be able to trust that you're fantastic. You're so surrounded with your teams. If you wanted to start talking to your teams and directly to your subconscious, you know, if you don't want to do it in your out loud mind, hey, Mr. Subconscious, what are you doing today? All good. Thanks for looking after me and making sure that I'm keeping myself on my right path. They want to be acknowledged. They don't need you praising them or having full-on gratitude. Of course, that would be nice and that would be respectful of them, but you acknowledging them will be great, because then you are inviting them and you're using your free will to have more connections. Many people just think, oh, I'm waiting here. Why aren't they coming? Why can't I see them? They get really pissed off. It's like, you actually have to know how to like connect in with them and start acknowledging them. If you were just sitting here pissed off because you haven't got a sign or a message, well, we all get signs. We're constantly getting messages, but you know, we don't want to look. We have got our own strong one opinion of how a sign would look for us. And so we must be able to have a conversation with them and respect them and what they can see and do for us, knowing we have these amazing assumptions of what we need and what we want. And there is a big difference there. And they know us, and they know how capable we are. And so if we're sort of struggling, they're like, we won't let you struggle too much. We'll give you some more support. But ultimately, we all want to be able to overcome our own experiences and not have any sort of cheats or shortcuts. So our own personal physical experiences and exploring all of this is literally why we're here. So it feels like your teams are just wanting to remind you that you can talk to them. They always listen and they always love you. And if you did want to have some direct messages from them, it's a sense and a feeling. So that's how they sort of start. So you're going to have to trust that that sense and feeling is them. And so when you just sort of still your mind, still your body, and relax and have the true mindset and intention to be connected to them, to be open to them, you won't hear them. You may not see them. Let's just assume you won't see them. Let's just assume that you won't hear them, but you'll feel them. And so your job is to interpret those feelings out loud if you want to. This is a great opportunity for those who want to start channeling. And so you just relax into it and you set an intention of what question you want. What is the most appropriate thing that you would like me to know today? And I'm asking my subconscious. And so when I relax into it, And I repeat in my mind that question. The message is always going to be like an introduction message, which is never forget you're loved. Isn't that so special? Stop it with love. It's too, it gives you the warm fuzzies, and it makes me want to, like, I get tearful, because that pure love is a lot. And so anyway, highly recommend having a little love boost of yourselves, and see what else your subconscious wants you to know, and just trust that you are connecting in with them. A lot of people just think, oh, it's all make believe. I'm talking to myself. Ugh, what a jerk. I'm just telling myself to love myself. How yuck. Really, if we're having those dialogues with ourselves still, this is a great opportunity for us to remember that we need to love ourselves most of all, because we may not have the luxury or the life contract to be loved by others. We're surrounded by people, but what if this lifetime we truly need to master love of self? Are you going to then just stop seeking love from others to actually go, oh, well, if it's in my life contract, I'll do it. How hard could it be? It's easy and it's beautiful and it's profound. Empowerment of self is the most profound thing that you can do in your start of your spiritual journey. Okay. Don't know if I talked much about movies, but I hope you understand that some of the things that we are afraid to see, and it's discomfortable to see it and watch it, there is great lessons and significant experience there. So be brave, allow and notice what your body is feeling and sensing, because we want to really notice what our bodies are feeling. Oh, is this joy right now? Is this being cheeky? Like, what is my mood? What is my feelings and thoughts, and how am I going? And this is a really powerful thing, to be able to kind of control your mind. Ugh, doesn't that sound weird? You controlling your mind, having mind control over yourself, which is about knowing when you're dipping into those emotions that are dense, catching yourself and controlling it to be able to think logically rather than thinking emotionally through it. So, okay, I think I've mansplained enough today. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but I think I'll do another video about it. So much love to you, my friends. I truly, 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 truly hope and trust that you will find the joy within yourselves, fall in love with yourselves. If you've got some reservations about how fantastic you are, even if you feel like there is something lacking in this life, remember who you are. Remember, you are this bigger soul. You're a multidimensional being, and that whatever you're struggling with in the 3D is merely but the 3D. And this doesn't define your true soul, your full soul essence. We're all part of one. We're all part of source. You're perfect. You're totally lovable. Okay, bye.